Hi there. I'm Frank Morano. You may have seen the story, but police have now arrested the man accused of shoving a 64-year-old Queens man onto the subway tracks as he was simply trying to get to work. The victim, Orlando Cabrera, suffered cuts to his face and arm and needed four staples in his head. Prosecutors say the suspect walked up behind him and pushed him onto the tracks without warning. Thankfully, Mr. Cabrera survived. But this incident raises a bigger question. Are New Yorkers irrationally afraid of subway crime, or are they responding to a very real problem? I take the subway almost every day, at least every day that I'm in Manhattan. Not once have I been murdered, very happy to say. Not once have I been pushed onto the tracks. But that's actually beside the point. Most people who are afraid of flying will never be in a plane crash. Most people who are afraid of being attacked on the subway will never be attacked. The question isn't whether every rider becomes a victim. The question is whether ordinary New Yorkers feel safe enough to use the system with confidence. Now, you'll hear some commentators say subway crime is low, and they're right in a sense. The overwhelming majority of subway trips occur without incident. I had to look this up to make sure I was accurate. But overall, major felonies in the transit system actually declined from 2,251 in 2024 to 2,160 last year. But that's not the whole story. What riders see are stories like this. They see people pushed onto tracks. They see random stabbings. They see people assaulted by strangers. And some of the most serious crimes remain significantly higher than they were before 2020. Nicole Jelinas pointed out, she's with the Manhattan Institute, she's great. She pointed out on Twitter, you should follow her on Twitter, that since March of 2020, there have been 47 subway murders. 47. Before that, it took 21 years to accumulate that same number. Even if overall crime numbers improve, random acts of violence have an outsized impact on public confidence. This isn't really about statistics. If somebody is pushed onto the tracks while waiting for a train, telling riders that crime is down 4% isn't going to make them feel any better. Imagine if an airline executive, a guy from Boeing or something, responded to a near disaster by saying, well, statistically, flying is still safe. Technically true. But people expect better than technically true. They expect excellence. They expect safety, and frankly, they should. The good news is this isn't some unsolvable mystery. More police presence, more enforcement against fare evasion, more intervention for people suffering from severe mental illness, better lighting, better platform protections. These are practical things that work. And here's something that often gets lost in the ideological debate. Acknowledging a problem doesn't mean you're attacking public transit. In fact, the best way to get more people onto trains is to make them safer. New Yorkers shouldn't have to choose between living in fear and pretending everything is fine. We can acknowledge that most subway rides are uneventful, while also recognizing that random acts of violence have become far too common. My prayers are with Orlando Cabrera and his family, and I hope this arrest, and shockingly, this guy was arrested 6 times before. I hope this arrest is a reminder that restoring public confidence in our transit system has to remain the top priority. I don't think the subway is a war zone, but I'm also not dismissing the very real concerns of riders. Let me know what you think. Comment as you see fit. Share if you dare.